Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. We are living through historic times. Today, spot Bitcoin ETFs available to trade for the first time in history in the United States. And it is absolutely massive. Billions of dollars were flowing on this historic day. In fact, $4.6 billion in trades on day one. So I'm going to share with you some of the specifics as to what has gone down this day. Also, take a look at this headline. I'll actually probably cover this at the beginning part of the video because the fact that this is approved is leading one of the founders of one of the funds, Cathie Wood, to believe that it's much more plausible that you're going to be seeing Bitcoin perhaps at $1.5 million by the year 2030. Can you imagine that? I'll just say this. Look, I think that the idea that, and I've been saying this for some time, that the spot Bitcoin ETF was just going to be explosive from day one, I didn't find that to be probable, but I think that a lot of people are not sufficiently appreciating just how impactful the approval of this is going to be over a span of years and decades. I firmly believe that, and it's very clear that Cathie Wood of ARK Invest is thinking along the same lines here. The amount of money that's going to flow in is going to be ridiculous. And so, yeah, it's great for Bitcoin, and I'm pro-Bitcoin. It's back to being my second largest position. And not because of purchases, it's just because of the volatility of the markets. But I still firmly believe that my altcoins are going to substantially continue to outperform Bitcoin because there's way less money in them. And so this rising tide that lifts all boats is going to result in a greater multiplier effect for all of my altcoins, which is why I'm most specifically interested in seeing what happens with XRP this year, which is my largest holding by a lot. And then there's also some in traditional finance, Vanguard, who are not allowing the spot Bitcoin ETF. I kid you not, I don't see how this won't bite them on the rear side. But I'll get you all caught up to speed on what has happened today. Before going further, though, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. So as I record this video, XRP is at 60 cents. It was as high as 62 cents. Here you have Bitcoin, currently 46,186. It did hit as high, at least on some exchanges, as $49,000. So there actually was this burst right out the gate as soon as the trading for the spot Bitcoin ETFs went live, and there was just a lot of exuberance in the market. Frankly, I think that's what's led to it. But then it corrected back onto the downside, and so what we continue to see is, despite this volatility and admittedly a lot of excitement, and for good reason in the world of crypto, this event, this whole thing over the last few days, has not been a buy the news event, and it also has not been a sell the news event. It's just moving sideways, which almost nobody guessed. In fact, I can't think of anybody that's well known in the world of crypto that predicted, oh, this won't really impact the market. It's just going to move sideways for the first 48 hours, whatever ends up being from the news being broken. But here we are. So it doesn't mean that there's not going to be volatility, but it just makes me think, well, when we finally do get more extreme volatility, to what degree was this even a factor? It's just kind of fascinating. And it's just weird. I know a couple days ago when he had the fake news of the Bitcoin spot ETFs getting approved, but it was actually just the SEC X account getting hacked. That changed things because there was a big move that day, and then when we got the real news the next day, it wasn't. So perhaps it really was tainted. Is what it is, though. As soon as we saw the excitement this morning, I simply posted on X, "Someone tell Jim Cramer not to say anything." Because, folks, I'm telling you, that guy, oh my God. Like, who fails harder when it comes to anything finance than Jim Cramer? Inverse Cramer is real, my friends. So into this headline now, the Daily Huddle. Cathie Wood issues bullish alert, says ETF approval has raised probability of Bitcoin skyrocketing to $1.5 million. Now, you know me, folks. I'm never going to be in the prediction game. I just be making crap up if I were making actual predictions. I do have expectations, which I think are reasonable, which is that this asset class is going to be way bigger, and investing in this asset class, I mean, I firmly believe, if you can just, this moment in time, look a decade out, this will be the best performing asset class in existence. I'm very firm on that. And so what I'm recognizing here is with the opening of doors here, the amount of money that's going to flow in over a shorter time period than it otherwise perhaps would have, I mean, yeah, this is profound. I really think this is profound. So I think that people overestimated the importance of the spot Bitcoin ETF in the short term and then underestimated it in the long term, which frequently happens with stuff like this. But check this out, because look, if Bitcoin's really going to go to $1.5 million, which isn't crazy, it actually could, what does that mean for the rest of the coins we hold, our alts? And again, specifically XRP, because there's so little money in XRP compared to Bitcoin, which represents opportunity. Market cap for XRP, about $32 billion. Market cap for Bitcoin, $903 billion. It's not even close. XRP is going to put Bitcoin performance to shame, and the spot Bitcoin ETF is going to help that. Anyway, piece reads as follows. ARK Invest founder Kathy Wood says a massive price target for Bitcoin just became more likely with the approval of spot market Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. In a new interview on CNBC's Squawk Box, Wood says that ARK Invest's bull case prediction of Bitcoin reaching the $1.5 million level by 2030 is now more probable after the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission approved on Wednesday 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs. And here's the quote from Kathy Wood. Our base case is in the $600,000 range. Our bull case, and we think the probability of the bull case has increased with this SEC approval, this is a green light, our bull case is $1.5 million by 2030. You can see the price forecast building blocks on ARK Invest's website. You can see how conservative we are in terms of those building blocks. This is a big idea. It is the first global, decentralized, digital, rules-based, rules-based monetary system in history. It is a very big idea, end quote. Exactly, and so you know what to expect, you know it can't be abused, and that's why it's so silly, the people that think there's nothing to this crypto thing, and it's just this, the bubble that keeps inflating and popping, yet trending upward for 15 years. Completely absurd idea. Of course, it's here. It's a big idea. It is here to stay. It's just a question of which cryptocurrencies deserve to be here and will be here for the long haul. Perhaps Bitcoin, just because it was first, and just to be clear, if Bitcoin is here for the long haul, it really is just because it's first, because it is technologically the most inferior. But hey, that's fine. Humans appreciate standards once they're in place, and if it's doing certain things for certain people, even if it's just store of value, great. And if you can build other stuff using layer 2 technology, like spin the bitses, so you can actually spend it as money, great. I'm all for it. That's perfectly fine. But then you have layer 1 technology like the XRP ledger with XRP as the native asset there, which just works. You actually can use XRP as money today. And of course, depending on where you live, there are tax implications, which makes it undesirable to do that. But who knows how that stuff changes over time anyway. But yes, all of this is perfectly reasonable to suppose, because you will, with technology, continue to see an exponential increase in adoption. And so if you're talking about 4% of humans on the planet owning crypto, maybe it's closer to 5% now. That's almost nobody. that's closer to 0 than 100, right? That's way closer to 0. You are super early, and most institutions still are not in the game yet. It's crazy. But still, it is fantastic to see what happened today. So let's talk about some of this stuff. Here I have a Bloomberg headline. Bitcoin ETF trades top $4.6 billion in groundbreaking day. The first US ETFs that directly hold Bitcoin got off to a strong start, with billions of dollars changing hands in a historical first day of trading for the long-sought investment vehicles. Over $4.6 billion worth of shares traded between the almost a dozen US spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds on Thursday. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which converted into an ETF, saw about $2.3 billion in volume, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. Meanwhile, BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust, IBIT, saw over $1 billion change hands. Okay, so I'll just pause a note here. Grayscale is the one that was really even pioneering this concept. So they started their Bitcoin Trust a long time ago, and that was only for accredited investors. The whole game plan for Grayscale is to get that converted into a spot Bitcoin ETF, because then it's traded on NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, and it's open to everybody, not just the small pool of people who are accredited investors. And it's backed by actual Bitcoin, so it impacts the real supply and demand dynamics, which is why we're all thrilled that these investment vehicles exist, right? And so Grayscale, they already had a bit of a user base there. They had some clientele there in that Bitcoin Trust, which is why their flows were bigger than BlackRock's on day one. They just converted it. And also, I don't know if you guys, I'll just be brief on this. I don't want to get into too much into fee structure. I talked about it the other day, but Grayscale actually has a higher fee structure than the competition. I think they have the highest, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it's 1.5%, I want to say. And then you have BlackRock starting at 0.2% for maybe it was like the first 6 months or something like that, and then it jumps up to 0.3%, I think. I'm admittedly pulling from memory, but I think that's about right. Well, why is Grayscale so much higher? How's that going to work? Well, I think that the reason that it is what it is because they recognize with their existing clientele that they're not going to jump ship to BlackRock or pick the competitor because there would be tax implications. So even with the particular fee structure, when it comes to long-term holdings, depending, if you're in the United States, certainly, there are some serious implications for that. So they've thought this through, and that's why they have the structure they have. Now, that being said, that can be adjusted over time. You can see fees change. And apparently they don't tend to go up, but they can go down. It's just like a race to the bottom, which is always dangerous in any industry, though. You got to make your profit somewhere. That's the thing. You do have to make profit somewhere. Anyway, piece continues, though. This is definitely groundbreaking, said Athanasios Psarofagius. Nailed it. An ETF analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence. There was no doubt demand would be strong for these ETFs, but the numbers across the board are impressive. Still, it's hard to compare Thursday's activity to any other day in ETF history. Typically, only one fund that tracks a new asset class begins trading on a single day. It's unprecedented to see over 10 nearly identical funds all begin at once. But even singling in on one ETF indicates the sheer magnitude of trading. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust was the most heavily traded ETF debut on record. To be sure, the product has existed in its trust structure since 2013 and had a nearly $27 billion head start in asset size. Trading volume doesn't indicate buying or selling or investor inflows. Because of the way the funds settle trades, net flows into or out of the products probably won't be known until at least Friday. And so again, I'll just say this. I think that people were perhaps expecting too much from day one. That said, I think it'll be very impactful over the long haul. And even aside from that, it still is a fantastic start. I mean, there's no denying this. This has gone incredibly well. There's real interest, which is also why it's interesting to see that there are some in traditional finance who are just shooting themselves in the foot very clearly here. Look at this headline from Decrypt. Bitcoin ETFs notch 1.9 billion in trading volume, but Merrill Lynch, Vanguard won't list. And this is just ridiculous here. So I don't need to read the article. I just want to get the point across here. Here you can see Eleanor Terrett was talking about this. New Vanguard Group, the world's second largest asset manager behind BlackRock, is reportedly blocking its customers from buying into the new Bitcoin spot ETFs, saying the products, quote, don't fit with Vanguard's investment philosophy, end quote. Don't fit with it. Might they be jealous because they're not participating because they just made a horrific miscalculation here and not following what BlackRock was doing, perhaps? And then Eleanor says, now we'll start to see how institutional traditional finance feels about Bitcoin. Just because the SEC has allowed these ETFs to exist doesn't mean the private sector has to accept them. Crypto skepticism is alive and well on Wall Street. Yeah, fair enough. There's still going to be some skepticism, but broadly, I would say, I think it's fair to analyze it this way, Wall Street has broadly accepted the world of crypto now because they're getting theirs. They've wrapped their arms in a cozy, warm hug around all of the entire crypto asset class. Doesn't mean 100% of firms are going to be on board, at least not now, but I think eventually they're all going to have to come around because all they're going to do as this continues to be ingrained just in culture around the world, all they're going to do is just harm their own brands and miss out on incredible opportunity. And to bring that point home, that post from Fox Business journalist Eleanor Terrett was reposted by somebody named Yuga, who wrote the following. I have 8 years worth of 401k savings at Vanguard from my time as an employee at Google. I will be rolling over these funds to Fidelity. Vanguard's paternalistic blocking of Bitcoin ETFs does not fit in with my investment philosophy. I love that line at the end, just throwing the same language right back at him. Doesn't fit in with my investment philosophy. Exactly. It's like the adults say, no, you can't do that. That's not good for you. No, we are adults. We deserve to be able to make our own decisions, and it's an investment vehicle. Why wouldn't you allow this? It's just astonishing. Here's another example. There's a guy named Neil who simply wrote, I have a retirement account with Vanguard. I called them and they said they will not be offering any of the Bitcoin ETFs. I'm working on transferring assets out of there, and then I will close my Vanguard account. Terrible business decision by Vanguard, hashtag Bitcoin. So there's a lot of feelings along these lines, and I don't blame anyone for feeling like that. Let's say it like this. There's never been an opportunity for people to achieve life-changing wealth in this capacity in history. And this is these major firms saying, no, you don't get to have a piece of that. Not if it's up to us. Now, thankfully, it's not actually up to them. No, because they can vote with their dollars, right? And that's what people are doing here. It's pissing people off, and this won't end well for them. So we'll see if things change as time passes. But hey, what a great start. I think this is going to be incredibly impactful as time passes. And even outside of the ETF stuff, I still think 2024 is going to shape up to be a great year, even aside from that. Even if you're like me and you think it's going to take a while for the flows into the spot Bitcoin ETFs to be particularly meaningful, 2024 is still going to be one baller year. And in fact, in my next video, I want to talk to you a little bit about why. I want to share with you a perspective from a number of top analysts, because look, it's the $1 million question. Like, are we going to see a new all-time high or are we not? And I've got perspective from a few of the analysts that I think are the best and greatest, who I've been tracking for years. Just like the hit rate for these guys is like through the roof. And I want to share their varying perspectives on what's going to happen. Because if we don't get that all-time high, okay, maybe we still see some fun for the next several months, but if Bitcoin doesn't get a new all-time high, what does that really mean? Or on the flip side, if we do, my gosh, I can't wait for XRP to melt faces if that happens. I'll just say that. But anyway, I'll save the rest of it for the next video. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.